welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast, bringing you some of the latest and greatest Pokemon news and a few laughs along the way. I'm Ben, and as always, I'm joined by fellow Pokemon enthusiast Conor. Before we begin, you can jump around the podcast by using the timestamps in the description below. Conor, how does it feel to be caught up in the Iono zone?
The Iono zone. It's such a... it's fine. It'll be good. Question
Yes.
for you. Do you think she has more or less followers than Raihan?
Oh, that's a tough... Because part of me thinks she has less because she it's almost like she's trying too hard.
There is a level of that, yeah.
But she's a female content creator, whereas Raihan's a male content creator. So I think that's a benefit to her because she's quirky, she's a little bit weird, and people like that.
Okay, so arguably, I hear this argument a lot, that female content creators have it easier. There is an argument to be made early on when it comes to content creation, right? The early boost of being female and having female assets is it is helpful, and I don't think anybody can deny it.
No.
However, when you look at the highest earning and the top echelon of content creators, they're almost exclusively male. Look at Twitch.
Oh, really?
Look at Twitch.
Okay.
You've got maybe Pokemon, Amaranth, and then it's all male.
Right.
It's all male at the top. So this idea that females have it easier, maybe initially. There
are,
and again, we're suggesting that you are utilizing.
Listen, if you've got an advantage,
the thing is, right? We all know that if you're pretty in this world, you get further, whether you're male or female.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I'd agree with that. Yeah, from my experience.
So I don't think that matters.
No,
I think maybe she's a streamer, which means she's going after a different audience than Raihan,
What's Raihan going for?
I think he's an Instagrammer.
Instagrammer, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Like, he takes all his selfies on his phone that floats around him when he's doing his battles. But I suppose that's the difference. See, Raihan is number 2 in Galar to the champion of the world kind of thing. So
I want to change my answer, actually. Okay, Raihan has the great following, and I'm only basing this on the crowd that Iono draws, or lack thereof, compared to Raihan Stadium, which is fully sold out.
Okay, I see you.
See what I'm doing there?
Because we got to see the live gameplay in the latest trailer.
Of the 5 people watching live, in person even. But that doesn't take into account the amount of streamers. Not streamers, viewers.
Viewers online. Yeah, everybody just watches it all online these days.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just cost of living and people can't afford a ticket. Maybe that's why they're all watching it online.
Gas prices, man. Nobody can afford to drive out there.
No, I'll just watch on Twitch or YouTube or whatever the Pokemon equivalent is.
Oh, you're right. There are 6 people in the background, aren't there?
there are many. There are many all. Which, so, after the stadiums in Gen 8, which I think, from my perspective, were the best representation of gym battles and the aesthetic, I guess. It's a bit disappointing to go back to there's about 6 people watching. And maybe that is because people, because in Gen 8, it's more about the gym challenge. This is what's going on, which implies that it's not all year round. There's a period of time where this happens, like football has seasons and then off seasons. So maybe that's why the stadiums were more packed. Whereas over in the Paldea region, you're basically a nobody. Nobody knows you. And there isn't, maybe it's just ongoing. It's any time of the year you can come and challenge us. Hence why it draws less people.
Well, the other thing is as well that I don't think the gyms are that important because they are just a proving ground. They're not the be all and end all. It's not I must go through 8 gyms, then 4 Elite Four, and then a champion. It's, you beat the gyms to become a champion ranked trainer so that you can fight other champion ranked trainers. And maybe those battles are actually worth watching. So it'd be the difference of going to a school football match versus going to a professional football match.
Yeah, I get
Nobody
that.
cares about the school football match. It's more about like friends and family that show up to that.
Agreed.
Doesn't mean there won't be talent there. It just means that's not what we're going to watch. And I know I've said football, I mean soccer to our American audience, because I know college ball is like huge. But over here, it's not really.
No, it's definitely not. So what's your answer then? Which one of the two is the most viewed, or whatever metric you want to use?
I think Iono's begging for it a little bit more, which it's weird. I'd love to say it's like, that makes me believe that she hasn't got as many followers, but we all know that no matter how high that number gets, it never feels like enough.
No.
Especially if you have, self-doubt and some deep-seated issues.
Driving it home.
But I think it's Raihan.
Yeah, Raihan almost seems like, I've got a lot of followers because I'm not actually trying. Like, it's just a addition to that, whereas I know Iono feels like, she started at 0 and she's like, I'm going to be the best streamer ever, rather than, I'm streaming because I'm good at other things and it just so happens I can tap into that for my audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, Galar, especially with like Rose and that leading it up, I feel would push it more for him.
Mm-hmm.
They would help that level of like, okay, you want to be Instagram famous. It's the same way that Nessa's a swimsuit model.
Oh, so, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she's a swimsuit model. She does like pictures with water Pokemon and stuff like that. And Rose will set those kind of shoots up, and it's like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That kind of businessman etiquette. So if Raihan wants to do this kind of, I want Instagram followers. All right, fine. We can make that happen. We can do, they slap ads on the back of Leon's cape. I know they're pushing that social media hard for them anyway.
Yeah.
So I feel like Iono's kind of doing it on her own. Raihan would have had backup. Yeah.
That makes me think, actually, because you see the Rotoms flying around the gym battles in Galar. Now, originally, I thought that was just for, the audience in person, like football. They have the cameras, then there's a TV screen in one of the corners so you can see the replays and stuff like that. But thinking about it, that might be streaming to people at home on their TVs in Galar. And I never thought about that.
I think in Twilight Wings, the spin-off series for it, that's actually confirmed that that's what they're doing.
Okay.
That they are streaming it for people at home. You really do. It's a good series. That's where you'll see like Nessa swimming around with Milotic and stuff like that. Oh, it's great.
So does that basically give a bit more spotlight to the
Galar trainers and stuff like that? Because there's a B episode, there's a Nessa episode. Hop actually gets involved a little bit.
Okay.
Which, considering we've not seen him in Journeys at all, and it all focuses around, or at least there's kind of a central story around a kid who is in like a hospital but really wants to go meet Leon and stuff like that. It's really sweet. There's a really good emotional through line to it. I like it a lot.
Is it canon to Journeys or its own separate thing?
I think it's its own separate thing. It's on the same level as like like Generations and stuff like that. It was just another series that they came out with around the game, a shorter one. It's all available on YouTube for free. Well worth checking out.
Okay, I'm going to do that at some point. So, should we jump into this week's main topic, which is almost part 2, I guess? And I just have to say, Conor, you absolutely called it last week.
Yeah, I did. So I was doing a sleep lock when this video dropped, and I had to stop everything, go over and look. And I'm really annoyed that, like, when this video released, the podcast hadn't come out just yet. It was like a couple of hours before. And I'm like, no, guys, I called it. And now none of you will ever believe me. No, wait, you will, because I'm here. And there's physically no way I could have gone back and edited it because I am live right now until this video goes up. So it's fine. I have proof.
You asked me to edit it last week.
No, I did not.
Like days in advance. It's worth a shot.
He's that cheeky so-and-so.
Oh, dear. So, okay, the question I've got for you then is, do you think, was it worth stopping your sleep lock to watch this?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I like the Pokemon design. It's weird. I like it.
Yeah, me too. Go on.
I found Iono not quite as annoying this time round.
So, is that simply because she doesn't say anything?
No, because because they did 2 videos for this. They did a follow-up of her like stream setup one, which wasn't real game footage. Yeah. So they did a real version, a release where she's like, "This is my Pokemon." Brings out the Bellibolt and then like starts bouncing on his head and squishing him down and stuff like that. And she just didn't seem quite as annoying. I don't know why she felt a little bit toned down. Maybe I'm just used to it by now. But yeah, it was a little bit of a shame to see the live action stuff and be like, oh right. Okay, so the in-game footage doesn't look anywhere near as good as what we were seeing. That was to be expected.
Yeah.
Those teeth look somehow even worse in-game. And no voice acting.
So I'm coming from this from a different perspective because I didn't realize there was second. Because what it seems like is there was the trailer last week, or the whatever that video, whatever you want to call the video, and then there was the second part of that video released, and then there's a separate video which is around showing Belibolt and the actual gym, but there's no voice acting, and she isn't in the room from the previous videos. So I've only seen that third video, which is only 1 minute and something long. So
would you like to take 5 minutes now to watch this one?
Go on,
just so we can be on the same page. All right, we'll be back in a minute.
We're back. I've gone ahead and watched the second part of the video that introduces Belibolt. I must say that one's 5 minutes long. The one I watched was about 1.5 minutes, and I got more from that. Whatever. She didn't annoy me as much this time, like you said, but it's probably because I'm used to it.
You knew what to expect. And the thing is, like, I didn't feel baited this time. I didn't feel like, I'm going to get I didn't get a thing. You promised me a thing and I didn't get it, and now I'm annoyed at you.
Well, she delivered. She said she'd be back and tell us about it, which she has. So the main takeaway then is obviously Belibolt. I liked how they introduced Belibolt in that way. It's trying to almost get in the limelight and spoil Yeah, absolutely. I did enjoy that, and I do love its design.
I think it's fun. Again, when I came out with the idea of like this little frog squishmallow thing, and the eyes will actually be its nose, and I was like, that's a cool idea. I don't know if it'll go well. It goes well. That's so cool.
It really it does work, and I must say, like when because obviously there has to be a decision made about which trainers have which Pokemon, and you want them to kind of feel like they belong together, and this video definitely helps to sell that, yes, she is the kind of trainer that would use this Pokemon. Obviously, she's an electric type gym leader, and that's an electric type Pokemon, but like they didn't have to do that. But the way that they've kind of put these two together, it just works.
Yeah. I mean, it does look like the kind of thing, it would be a massive plushie that somebody would have in the background.
Oh, definitely.
That being said, do you think they're going to do full-size Bellibolt plushies?
It depends on how popular it becomes. I have already seen someone on Reddit post a photo of somebody that has created one. It's not massive. It's like your typical plushie size, but someone's already made one. I don't know if they'd do a full-size one. It's kind of got that look where it would make sense to do a full-size one, a lot like the Snorlax one that was released. The
Snorlax one is obviously the big beanbag one. But I'm thinking, because they did those squishies. Did you see these squishy plushies that they did?
No.
They did like a Piplup and they did a Slowpoke that I can remember, and they were just big round boys that were just designed to pick up and just squish. I will send you a picture. But yeah, no, that kind of thing, I think it would go down really well.
That's quite cute. That's quite cute. So, have you seen the other trailer that shows the gym? Then the actual gym.
Yes.
So you have seen that, right? So we're both on the same wavelength now. Should we jump onto that one then? Because that one reveals more.
Yeah, we get a better look at Bellibolt. We get, as you say, a look at the gym, which is a little bit barren, a little
There's
bit.
nothing going on. Like after and I think the disappointing thing for me is after watching the videos and it sells this kind of streamer aesthetic, and we were talking about, the gym challenge and maybe like the idea of it's like the contest in the old Pokemon games, and you're trying to increase the number of viewers or subscribers or likes or whatever, and that is how you then get her to challenge you when it reaches a certain amount. And the whole video sold you on this idea of, look how quirky, and this is the kind of, place that a streamer would stream from. Didn't get that from the actual gym. Doesn't feel like that. And what... Go on.
Because we were talking about, it'd be really cool if she was in her studio and you fought on this area, and none of that seems to be the case. It does seem like you just fight her on a rooftop somewhere. I think we do know where this city is by looking at it. Possibly.
I don't know where it is on the actual map, but it's Levincia, I believe it's called.
Valencia.
Ah, okay. And it's apparently one of Paldea's region's most prominent cities. Did you get that feeling from this?
There's one big building behind her, which I'm not sure isn't just the gym building.
Right. Okay.
But I'm pretty sure I know where this is. At the bottom right hand of the map, there's like a really big city.
Right.
And it sort of looks a little bit more modern than the rest of it, and I think that's where it is.
Okay, right. So, what was there anything else that stood out to you in these?
As in from the trailers themselves, because there's lots I want to talk about with Bellibolt.
Okay, let's. Okay, right. I want to get the negative thing out the way with.
Go
first.
on.
I'm sure you're going to say the same thing. The person jumping in the background, and I say background, what I mean is a few feet away from Iono, and it's so laggy. Like, why are we still doing this?
Okay, I am not necessarily willing to comment on this anymore, given what happened last time with the fact that it wasn't that case in the Japanese one, and that's just confused me to a point where I just don't even want to talk. Okay. I just don't even want to go there anymore.
Forgot about that. So move on then.
I again hope for the best, don't expect the best. What was interesting was the fact that we're still at a point where the background trainers all look the same.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that in Legends Arceus they had a sort of algorithm set up where they would have a stock trainer, but then would change his hair out and change the gender and change the clothing ever so slightly.
Okay.
So that it was never necessarily the same person.
Right.
And they've clearly not done that here. Which is weird because a lot of them are students, which means you just have access to the full...
Well, they just wear the same clothes, don't they? And then literally all you need to change is the eye, because we've seen that they have more customized options for eyes and hair and stuff. So then, say you just do that random thing of, okay, they all wear the same outfit, well, male or female, and then you just randomly select hair, eyes, mouth.
But there's a whole bunch of different outfits available to us as well. So why? Yeah, we have a whole bunch of different outfits, eyes, hats, glasses, mouths, whatever. So you can just basically go randomly done.
So
random generate it.
Yeah, I agree. So my thought on that is because this and Legends Arceus were in development at the same time, and what was implemented in Legends Arceus was too late to implement in Scarlet and Violet. Yeah. That's probably the reason, which is a shame because it does. Now that you mention it, it does take you out of a video game where you see the same asset over and over again, especially when it's a person. But that wasn't really the case in Legends Arceus, mainly because there was a lot of areas where there weren't people, and then you had the different teams, and you could get away with giving them the same outfit and maybe the same hair and everything because you saw them as a collective rather. It's the same reason why, there's only typically two designs for the bad guy teams, the grunts. There's a male and female typically, and then you have the few that do stand out. It works for teams like that, but it's when it's individual NPCs that are just out and about, that's when it takes me out of it, because
it's like in Sword and Shield, that one guy with his arms folded and the blonde hair in the crowd just nodding along.
He's always there, isn't he?
He's always there.
He's just following you around as you go on your journey. Yeah, that does stand out, unfortunately.
So it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
He is
still excited about the
let's
game.
move on to the thing that we did like from this, it sounds like. Bellibolt.
It's got a really cool ability.
It really has. Because I did my homework, went on the Pokemon website beforehand. So it gets two abilities. Static, which we already know about. It's in previous Pokemon games. And then Electromorphosis.
Which is a really cool ability where it may, so it gets hit and then it gets charged.
Yeah.
Which means, does it get, the move charge? Does it just get that for free?
That's what it sounds like. It basically just powers up the next.
But charge is 100%. It's a double power move next time around. Which means if you get hit as a Bellibolt, and let's not lie, this thing looks like it's going to be tanky.
It does,
It's got a little bit of a Wobbuffet feel about it, where it's very squishy, you hit it and comes back harder kind of thing. If you build this thing super duper tanky, and then every electric move you have is twice as powerful because it gets hit, that's going to be insane.
It really, I'm thinking
especially if you could terrestrialize it and then put even more stab damage on that electric.
Agreed. I'm thinking as well about competitive battles. There is no reason to train this Pokemon to be fast. You wouldn't put any speed onto this because you want it to get hit, so that then you can, like you say, counter with a powerful electric type move. It'll be interesting to see, what electric type moves are introduced in this generation. And it'll also, like it says, they boost the power of the next electric type move that it uses. So I'm guessing, does this not affect special or physical? It is literally just the next electric type move that you use, regardless of whether or not it's physical or special, will just be increased in power.
Yeah,
that's what it seems like.
That's what it's saying to us. And again, that's how charge works.
Yes.
So you can charge and use Spark, or you can charge and use Thunderbolt. It doesn't matter.
So I quite like that, and it looks like one of the mons, just from what I've seen in the trailer, where they've deliberately, and I've noticed this over the last couple of trailers, there's certain mons that are being introduced where, the Blastoise issue, where it doesn't use water gun from its cannons, it just kind of appears in front of it. This, from what I saw in the trailer, is the electric type attacks comes from its belly.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point, because I was looking at the electric type move, and I thought it looked better. I really liked the way it looked. Maybe it's because it's arcing from your Pokemon to the opposing Pokemon, and then you can see all the damage go off while the electric's still hitting it. But you're right, it is coming from its belly. Maybe that's got something to do with it.
For me,
interesting.
So from what I remember, it also uses Mud Slap in the trailer, but it's shown from behind. So the interesting thing will be whether or not Mud Slap also comes from its belly, because that'll just be the point where they've added when it uses an effect, it comes from this location. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not Mud Slap comes from somewhere else, potentially its mouth or whatever, or its feet, I don't know. But the fact that electric type move did come from its belly, give Game Freak credit where credit's due for doing that.
Absolutely. And I think it kind of looks, Boom Burst does the same thing. I'm assuming it's Boom Burst. That's the kind of move that it looks like. Yeah, it kind of emanates from the belly.
Right, okay.
Oh, wow. Maybe. Don't get my hopes up here.
Not again. I can only be hurt so many times. So what do you think about the eyes then?
Yeah, okay. It's I like it in concept.
Yeah.
In execution, it's a little bit creepy.
So yeah, because when on the initial trailer that I saw, so I didn't see the video with Iono, I just saw that this is the reveal of the Pokemon and let's show it off in a couple of battles. And they didn't explain which eyes were the real ones. And neither of them were blinking. So for a while I was sat there going, which eyes are the real eyes? And then it's only when it falls asleep that, it's real eyes do that half moon kind of shape or whatever. And then it's got its two fake eyes on its head that don't actually blink. And I quite like that because it makes sense, because it would keep predators away at night while it sleeps, because the predators are going to look at it and go, oh no, that Pokemon's still awake. It's looking at me, not realizing about the fake and real eyes. I quite like that. That one works out quite nicely. But Pokemon's always had an issue with eyes, I feel. And I don't know if you agree with me on this, that some eyes look really realistic, almost like real animals, real insects, whatever. And then some Pokemon literally just have two ovals. Yeah, or dots.
It's the, like, the ones where you'd have difficulty making a Ditto plush of them.
Yes. Okay, yeah.
The Wooper is the one that always sticks out in my head.
What eyes does Wooper have? Is it
it's just two
circles?
dots.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get it, yeah. Yeah, because could you imagine that with realistic-looking eyes?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'd work. But then, so I'm okay with like Pokemon with the little dots. Like, that's not the point. The point I'm making, I guess, is when you see them together, it kind of throws me, and this is a Pokemon that has both sets of eyes, technically. And it throws me because the fake eyes, I'm like, okay, they look realistic. They've got all the common elements of a proper eye, the different colors and the iris and all that stuff. And then its actual eyes are literally just two yellow ovals. Like, how does that work? I don't want, like, my brain can't function because suddenly I'm like, well, I know the fake eyes look real but aren't real, and the eyes that look fake are actually the real eyes and therefore work. It boggles my mind. I can't figure it out. My brain shuts down.
Intelligent design, mate. The eye is too complicated for any human to fully understand because it was created by God in the Pokemon universe.
You mean Arceus?
Yeah.
Apparently so, yeah. It's life energy. There we go. It's just life energy. That's what it is. And you can just explain away anything. It's like in science fiction, it's like it's quantum energy, whatever that means. In Pokemon, it's just life energy.
But you're right. They are like indented. It does look like somebody's just taken a bit of Play-Doh and like shoved their thumbs into it now that you've mentioned it.
It does look like that. One of the other things that I noticed and I did like is it has an animation where it sticks its tongue out as well. Like, blah. Is that the noise it makes?
Why not?
But just go for it. So I quite like that. I quite like that it looks like... So this bleeds into my next point, actually, about, you said in the past about Pokemon, you want it to feel like they're alive.
Uh-huh.
So the tongue sticking out is always a nice little animation. And then I don't know if you saw it on the Pokemon website, but apparently it's easygoing by nature and it doesn't notice an opponent until attacked.
Which makes me laugh if, like, you can do the Let's Go feature for it to go pick up items, but it won't go and attack Pokemon on its own.
Yeah, that's where I was. That was going to be one of my points. Is like they've said that on the Pokemon website, and I like that. But how will that affect the auto battle system? Like, it's
probably not, but I hope it does.
Me too, because all those points together just make it feel like, oh, this isn't a digital asset. It is a Pokemon with a personality, and it goes about things in a different way than other Pokemon. In an ideal world, yeah, you throw it out, and maybe this is hinting that the auto battle isn't as simple as you throw out a Pokemon and they just knock out everything. Maybe there are certain strategies. So in the later levels, maybe it is a case of, okay, going into this one that's a water type, well, I do actually want an electric type, and Belibolt's the perfect one because of the way that it is slow, and therefore it'll get hit first and then it'll counter almost with powerful electric type attacks. I'm hoping this hints, I really am hoping that this hints at the auto battle it has a bit more depth than we initially thought.
Yeah, because at the moment it looks a little bit, I mean, you don't even see the battle happening. At the moment, it looks like your Pokemon walks up, takes a little bit of damage, slaps the other Pokemon, and it faints.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's like, okay, I can understand that that's kind of sped up, but is it going to be really easy? Is grinding my Pokemon going to be suddenly not a difficult thing? Am I going to get more rewards from doing the turn-based style? Like, what's the benefit of doing an actual fight if auto battles are so simple now?
Yeah, and like, did you ever play Pokemon Quest?
No.
Oh, okay, so that had auto battling in it as well, but you didn't have to use it. So basically, you build up a team of 3 Pokemon. Every Pokemon has up to 2 moves that they can use that affect, like typical water gun or bulk up and things like that. But you could also have auto battle on that, and sometimes you would get absolutely wrecked because the AI isn't as clever as you in certain circumstances. But you could, once you reach a certain level, you could go back to previous levels and grind through rewards and just turn on auto battle. But they would also use the different moves that they have, and then at any point you could go, okay, right, I'm gonna click that move just to help them out. And if it's similar to Pokemon Quest, I'm okay with that because there is a bit of depth to it. What I don't want is an auto battle of, okay, you lost, and the only reason you lost is because you weren't high enough level.
I think it's going to be level and typing. I think that's going to be literally the only 2 factors that matter. Because, again, you're supposed to take out 30 of these things when you go and do the Star Road. So, and that is supposed to be purely auto battles, at least by the looks of it. So I don't think it's going to be a case of like, okay, I can see my health going down. I'm going to jump in here and back it up and give it actual commands and stuff like that. I'm not sure how it will work. It's really hard to judge something that's not out yet.
Yeah.
But again, I just hope it's not too easy, but at the same time isn't going to make me just pull my hair out because it's like you had full type advantage, the greatest moves possible, and you still lost somehow.
Yeah.
AI be dumb.
Yeah, it is. And like at the moment, I'm playing Pokemon Masters, and on my team, I have Togepi, which is one of the best mons because it has an ability that basically increases accuracy, defense, special defense of all your team. But the problem is, it also has Metronome as its only attacking move. And if you put it on auto battle, it doesn't matter that you have the best, most overpowered unit in your team. It just keeps using Metronome over and over again, and that's not what I want. That's an example of bad implementation where the AI actually isn't looking at your team and going, okay, what is strategically the best thing to use?
Yeah, what's the purpose? Why is, or even just like if the auto battling system follows your pattern.
Yes.
So for instance, like if you're running into a battle and the first thing you do is click flamethrower. Yeah. Maybe the first thing I should do is click flamethrower. Or if the first thing you do is usually if you set up sword stance. Okay, I will set up sword stance before attacking. It'd be good if it recognized this as it went. Unlikely that'll be the case, but it'd be cool.
It would be cool. I think it's going to be as simple as you're throwing your Pokemon and, all fire Pokemon have a fire type attack. All water type have a water type attack. It doesn't matter whether or not that water type attack you have is Surf, Water Gun, Bubble. It just uses a standard water type attack, and that's how you get through. Like you say, it is based on level and what typing it is. This is one of those things where, like, I do want more information before I go into it. I don't want it spoiled, but I want a bit more information of how it works under the hood, just so I can then go, okay, right, I'm on board with this. Which, at the moment, I'm like, I want to see this auto battle because it looks really interesting, but I want to know what's going on under the hood as well.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get much more information until the games are out at this point.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think they've kind of teased the mechanic, and like, if you want to find out more, either wait for a review or come find out for yourself.
So, are we done? Is there anything else you want to say about Bellibolt and these trailers?
Not really. It was kind of again, if this had been one trailer,
yes,
it would have been a really nice, lots to go over.
Yes.
But it's one Pokemon got revealed, and that was kind of it. And it's like, okay, I like the Pokemon, don't get me wrong, but there's not a whole lot going on here.
No, not like you say. If it had been, if we could have combined last week and this week into one main content would have worked really nicely, but unfortunately that is just how it is. There is one thing that you brought up before we started recording that I really want to talk about.
Cool, I've forgotten what it was.
Leaks.
Leaks! Right, so, apparently, according to some people on Twitter, the entire game is being leaked today, as of day of recording, which is the Wednesday. Now, how verifiable that statement is, because it's come from two leakers. Yep. Neither of them are sort of the leaker, if we shall put it that way. Again, I'm not giving out names because I don't want to promote this kind of behavior, but it's all over Twitter. I can't avoid it. Here you go. There's even a recent one here. Eagerly awaiting reply from my source on Game Leak. It's nearly lunchtime, so hoping to hear soon. So, again, we've had a couple of people saying the whole game's going to leak today. We'll see what happens. I even went out of my way to set up a separate channel in my Discord server today for people who want to talk about leaks, and like locked it off. So you have to now go into a rules section and click I want leaks to have access to it at all.
Makes sense.
Because it's going to be everywhere. If it really does come out a month early, it's going to be everywhere.
This is massive. It will. You will. I think, like I've mentioned before, nothing for me has been spoilt at this point, which is a lie. I have no idea how this has happened, but I'm just fresh on the entire thing, other than what I've seen in trailers. But like, if it gets leaked, I'm not going to play that leak.
I will say it's not the game that's leaking today. It's the data mine.
Oh, is it the data mine? Right. Okay. Okay. So
the game will leak, no doubt, within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But
for me, like, because I want to go out and buy this game and I want to experience it how the creators intended us to play it. But unfortunately, like, the moment the data mine gets leaked, I'm probably getting spoiled because it'll be on YouTube thumbnails. That's just how it is. It's infuriating when that happens because I don't want to know, all the different mons, and this happened with Legends Arceus, and I made the mistake there because I looked up all the Hisuian forms without the context of like how they are in game.
Yep.
And I remember being really taken aback by the is it the origin forms of
Palkia and Dialga. Yeah. See, I saw those, I think, like a Reddit post got pushed my way.
Yeah.
I to be honest, again, I have become an authority on Pokemon amongst my friends who will see something and be like, do you know what this is about? And just sent me them, not realizing what they were. And of course, that's the kind of thing where if you're just looking at the dex entry for them, they don't look good. They don't look like good Pokemon.
Agreed. Yeah, but in the game,
they look pretty good. They look good in action.
Yes, exactly, and that's why I don't want to just see, if Bellibolt has an evolved form, I don't just want to see a PNG of it because that instantly will make me look at it a certain way rather than how the game creators want me to look at it in game, which might be, it's hopping around the map, or it's one of Iono's Pokemon. She just happens to use its evolved form as well, and you get to see it use a really powerful move that you've never seen before. You're like, oh, what is this? Like, I don't like. Fair enough. If people want to, I get why people kind of data mine, because for some people they do want to go in with as much knowledge as they can, and some people just enjoy having all that information before everyone else. That's just the kind of person they are, and I'm okay with that if that's you as a person wanting that information, but then don't push it on other people.
Yeah, I don't know. It's right. So I have mixed views on this because, again, you do you. As long as you don't hurt anybody else, you do you.
Yeah.
And I know back in the day, like, data mining just wasn't a thing that we could do. No. We didn't have access to. But imagine if people had data mined Pokemon Red and Blue before it came out, and they discovered Mew. The game, the franchise wouldn't exist the way it does today.
No, agreed. Yeah, it wouldn't.
Because not the only reason, but one of the strongest factors as to why this franchise took off was that Mew was discovered via a glitch. And then the rumors spread. And then people were like, well, how do I get one? How do I get one? Is it a secret Pokemon? Are there other secret Pokemon? What's going on here? And then it was eventually released that, oh no, you can get one, but you have to do it through this special event. And like the rumor and the spreading of Mew really sold the game to a lot of people. Whereas you can't do that anymore. People know what the event Pokemon are.
Yeah.
Before the games are even out. It's like, oh yeah, we data mined it. Here you go. Here's all the Pokemon that will possibly be in this game. Like, okay. And again, that's easier to combat now because you have DLC.
Yeah.
So Pokemon aren't necessarily even in the game until Game Freak want them to be. Which would be kind of funny. Actually, oh, right. So I was thinking, right, I'm not the biggest fan of day one patches, but they always happen.
They do, yeah.
So part of me would love to say, like, what if they had a stripped down version of the game that went out on the cards and then had a fully bug tested update with so many more Pokemon on day one?
It would be very brave of a I would love to see that happen from a surprise point of view, because even then, if you spoil it on the data mines, you don't actually know everything, because like you say, patch 1 on day 1, and oh, look at all this, it's different, things have changed, there's Pokemon that I didn't know about, is a big surprise. The issue with that, though, is people that can't connect their Switch to
people
the internet.
Without internet.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I realized it as soon as I said it. I mean, again, I go back to, there was a Tony Hawk's game. Do you remember this? There was a Tony Hawk's game that was like 50 meg of it was on this disc, and then the rest of it you had to download before you could play it.
What? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that is like, see, this is why people don't have trust for game developers, because they pull shady stuff like this.
Yep.
It's like, I know I'm going off a bit of a tangent here, but like, I remember buying Resident Evil 5 back in the day on the disc, and they were like, oh, this you can download this DLC for, I think it was like £5. The DLC was like a 15 KB key that unlocked the content that was already on the disc. So you'd already paid for the game and the content on the disc, but they hid something behind another paywall, which is bang out of order. Shouldn't be allowed. And I must say, like, it's early day. It's one of the things that that I quite like about what Game Freak did with the Sword and Shield DLC, where it was added content that didn't impact on the main game, and it didn't seem, at least, to be like, not owning those DLC didn't take away from the main game, if that makes sense. Like, DLC should always be, okay, you've got the main game here, you can enjoy that, this is how we envisioned it. Oh, by the way, here's a little add-on that we've started creating, when it was too late to implement into the main game, that allows us to flesh out new ideas or things that weren't in the main game and go ahead and buy it. And I quite like that about Sword and Shield. So I've got high hopes for Scarlet and Violet bringing out DLC for it.
Well, it depends what you're classifying as the main game, because if you battle online, then it definitely impacted the main game because it brought a whole bunch of legendaries and stuff back.
True.
However, again, this is the one thing I do like about Pokemon, is that as soon as a Pokemon is available in the game, you can bring it over from a previous title.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need the DLC to have Landorus and Sword and Shield.
No.
Which is great, which is exactly what you need. And I really hope they keep up with that kind of model.
Agreed. Yeah, I do as well. I really do. It's strange, because I thought DLC was going to be their new way of making more money, to be quite honest with you, but then Legends Arceus didn't get any, so maybe we won't get any.
I'm really surprised it had one update, which
was a great free update when you think about it. It was fantastic, but no
do you
paid?
think the team immediately got ripped off of that and put onto the next game?
Maybe, yeah. Which, like, I get that from okay, we need to get onto the next game so we can push that out. But from a business point of view, it sold really well, and DLC, you'd think, would also sell really well. So I'd imagine it's one of those strange situations for them where, okay, if we don't expand the team and who we've got on board to build this game, we have to make a decision whether or not we basically make a bit more money from Legends Arceus, or if we do that, it's going to impact on Scarlet and Violet and maybe not release on time, or we make sure Scarlet and Violet releases on time, but we lose potential profit from Legends Arceus. I can't imagine it was an easy decision for them.
Do you think it's too late for DLC for Legends? Do you think if they came out next year and was like, we've got new areas you can explore in Legends, anybody would care?
I think if they bought it out next year, they would still get a lot of sales from it. I know I would love a reason to go back into that game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they will, because from a PR and marketing point of view, it's almost like saying, we released Scarlet and Violet, but actually we acknowledge that this maybe isn't the game you wanted. The game that you want is Legends Arceus, and we want you to go back to that one. Even though they are different, one is very much a single-player experience, whereas Scarlet and Violet is a single-player experience, but there's a lot of multiplayer aspects and, play with your friends and stuff like that. I just can't see them going back to Legends Arceus from a PR and marketing point of view.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it just damaged the reputation and make people think, oh, okay, so this game that I literally bought a few months back isn't getting an update, but you are updating the one that came out a couple of years back.
Yeah, you're almost diverting attention from where you actually want it to be.
Yeah. So I think now it is too late for DLC, unfortunately. I hope I'm proved wrong, though. But, yeah.
I'm sure whatever the plan is, they will master it somehow.
Oh, master it somehow. Was that an intentional segue?
It was!
Yeah! Well done.
Who says stuff like that? Come on.
I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to be like, okay, we'll move on to Master Genes. You're like, no, I've still got like 3 bullet points I want to discuss about Bellibolt. Oh, okay, right. So it's that time again where we continue watching Pokemon Master Journeys and discuss the episodes that we've seen. I just need to point this out. There's an error in my script that I've never updated, and that's why I always pause whenever I'm reading that. I need to update it. So the first episode is episode 7, The Tale of You and Glimwood Tangle. And it's Chloe again.
It's Chloe again. And it won't be the last time it's Chloe again today.
No, it won't. So, you remember a couple of weeks back, you asked me about, is this taking attention away from Ash and Ash's journey? And I've changed my answer now. Yes, I want more Ash stuff. And it feels like we're not getting as much at the moment. I know that at the end of this discussion, we're only going to be 9 episodes in. But it feels like Ash has only had maybe 1 or 2 episodes.
I think Chloe's had like 4 or 5 of these episodes.
Yes, she's had a lot.
And don't get me wrong, I like her as a character.
Yeah.
I really like her as a character. And this episode, I think, is really sweet. The My Little Pony episode, as I like to dub it.
My Little Pony episode, yes.
It is. Like, friendship is magic and everything. And then the one that comes next is, fantastic. I love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
I like her. I like her as a character. Because it's simpler. You can go a little bit slow with Chloe. It's not as bombastic and as loud. Weirdly enough, her lack of sense of direction allows for more slice of life anime kind of vibes to her episodes.
That's a great way to put it, actually, because with Ash and Go, you typically know where you're going with the episodes. Like, you can kind of figure out, okay, right, you're going to this area, therefore you're going to bump into these mons, catch a mon. Whereas Chloe, you're absolutely right. Chloe's episodes for me tend to be more about let's discover what makes Pokemon.
Yeah.
This episode like demonstrates it in a good way, but all the Chloe episodes to me have been about caring for mons.
Yep.
And it's about, the love and attention that you give to them because they are, in fact, real living creatures. And whereas Ash focuses more on the battling aspect and Go more on the learning more and catching, Chloe's role seems to be, okay, I'm touching on things that maybe you wouldn't see in the other stories.
Yeah. It's the emotional connection. And that's not to say the other guys don't have that, but it's a much more sensitive approach to it.
Yes. Agreed.
There's almost, because she's not getting anything out of it. There's nothing she seeks to gain from her interaction with Pokemon.
That's a great way
other
to
than
put
an
it.
Understanding and, a mutual respect. It's why she sticks out as a really good character for me. And I like the fact that, because she's a female protagonist at this point. She is a protagonist.
Yeah.
Who is not just another I want to do contests.
Yes.
Which is good because, again, it's showing different sides of femininity. Yes, contests are great. I love it. It's a good story arc for Dawn and Serena and May and Iris didn't, to be fair. But I need something a little bit different. And having the daughter of a professor who is just trying to get to know Pokemon and how she relates to them.
Yeah. So
it's beautiful. I love it.
It is, and I think a good contrast is let's consider this episode, which is about Chloe and caring for the Ponyta and Rapidash. It can contrast that with the Suicune episode that we got a few episodes ago, because there is similarities between the two. Whereas if Go was the main focus of this, it would have been, okay, Go's helping this Pokemon, but he's going to end up catching it at the end. If it was Ash, caring for this Pokemon and then having to have a battle to resolve some kind of situation, where there's none of that with this. It's just Chloe, she's not in it for a reason other than just help.
Oh yeah, for those who haven't seen it, the episode is about Chloe gets a psychic image from a Galarian Ponyta that its Rapidash parent, assumably, is hurt. She then reads a fairy tale book where exactly the same thing happens, convinces her dad to let her and the boys go to Glenwood Tangle. The boys run off trying to chase a...
I can't remember what they're after.
It's the tiny little mushroom one. I always forget its name. It evolves into Shinotic.
It's the...
I
can't remember, even though I've caught it in Pokemon Go this week. Can't remember. It just doesn't stand out to me.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Moralol. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Yes.
They run off trying to catch a Moralol. She finds this Ponyta. The Ponyta leads her to the injured Rapidash, and it's like, I read in my book that there is this magical rainbow flower that can cure you. I'm going to go on this magical adventure with this little pony, and it's great. Very sweet story, very simple story.
Yeah.
Kind of suggested that it might be a dream at the end.
Oh, where did you get that from? Go on.
So they finish up with the Ponyta.
Yeah.
And then Chloe wakes up. She's got the book in her hand.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Was I dreaming? And then she goes to the door and sees the boys with the Moralol. And she's like, maybe it wasn't a dream. Not sure. Leave it up to audience interpretation. And then the book flips through and you see a girl riding a Rapidash with the Ponyta and an Eevee on its back. And it's like, was that a dream? Did her adventure really happen? Did she just go to Galar with the boys? Did the boys go to Galar on their own? What happened here? Maybe we'll never know.
Maybe we never will. Yeah. Now, see, I didn't think it was open to interpretation, but now that you've mentioned it like that, actually, yeah, could go either way, I guess. You could argue either way. It's the Inception spinner top thing all over again, isn't it? So I didn't have a huge amount of notes other than what we've already really discussed, other than we finally get to meet Opal, which was great.
It's great introduction.
Her quiz as well, that she's known for. Love that.
Lifted straight from the gym.
Yes, it was absolutely fantastic. Cinderace looks good in pink, which...
Loves it as well.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense because it's orange and red, but yeah, it goes with pink really well, apparently.
I don't know, I just like the fact that it's like, yeah, I'm comfortable with my sexuality. I'm fine. Yeah, I look good in this.
I'll wear pink. I love pink.
Let me feel pretty.
Yeah. What else? We once again get to see Eevee using another move. This time Heal Pulse. So again, you mentioned, was it Mimic?
I believe it's Mimic.
Mimic, right. So that's potentially what we are getting here. Not a lot else. I guess the only other thing is how I liked how Chloe dealt with the Impidimp, where, Ash and Go probably would have battled them, or there would have been shenanigans. Whereas Chloe just asks,
Yep.
and gets what she wants.
Is it Mimic? It might be Copycat.
Copycat, yeah. I can't remember. I know there's a difference between the two. I couldn't tell you what it is. But yeah, overall though, it was I want more Ash stuff, but this was a nice Chloe episode.
I think that's where it lands for me. Like there are, I almost want these to be 3 different shows.
No, I can understand that, and it could
Maybe
work.
That's where
as well.
it's leading. Maybe that's what
reckon?
they kind of. I don't necessarily know. Again, Pokemon have been moving more towards like we'll have the normal anime, and then we'll have a separate anime for older audiences and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe they might be going to like we've done Ash for 20 odd years now. We might still do something for him, but let's do some other stuff for our more female audience who want to see a more female-centric show. Or let's focus on Go, who is all about catching Pokemon. Now, the likelihood of that happening isn't high because, again, the news came out a couple of weeks ago that they're having struggles to keep up with even producing this. The company who produces this anime doesn't have the staff, doesn't have the time to make this to the quality they wanted to. Full respect to them for the work they put out and have put out for the last however many years. But yeah, the likelihood of them making another anime show just for Chloe, not likely, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it would be nice to, because one of the way to look at like journeys at the moment is what, and whether or not it's to its benefit or detriment is that there's no massive overarching story other than Ash, really. And a lot of the episodes are almost self-contained. The great thing about that is because you come into it and every week feels different. But on the flip side, I know that some people, me to some degree, be like, well, I don't want to see as much of Chloe and I don't want to see as much as of Go. I want to see Ash's journey, and there is a benefit to eventually, if they did go, okay, we're going to roll it out, so Ash goes on this journey, Chloe goes on this journey, Go goes on this journey, and then every now and again they meet up. At least then you can go, well, I'm only interested in Chloe and Ash, and therefore I'm only gonna watch those series, and therefore you probably feel a lot better about those series because they are more what you want. But like I said, I don't see that happening. I think we're kind of stuck with all 3 of them until the end of journeys.
Yeah. And again, like them all as characters, but it does feel, as you say, they're kind of diverting from each other's story and kind of pulling away from one another.
Yeah.
Whereas at least back in the day, Brock, Ash, and Misty, they all had their own things that they were doing, but they were quite happy to all go in the same direction.
Definitely, yeah. And what I liked about that is you got to see the interactions between those people. It's quite hard to have interactions when Chloe's over on her own. Yeah. And I do want to see more of these interactions and see how they challenge one another or they help one another. They
like separating her off a lot, don't they?
They do, yeah. It feels like, so whenever there's a Go-focused episode, there's typically Ash is also involved in it. Whereas Chloe's episodes feel very much like it's basically a coin flip, whether or not it is just Chloe and they use Ash and Go just to kind of set up the episode, then they wander off or something, takes them out of the episode. It does feel like Chloe's episodes are a lot more, it's just Chloe rather than Chloe and Go, Chloe and Ash, or some kind of variance on that.
Which is interesting because it kind of implies, again, Go is with Ash because Go has a lot to learn from Ash.
Yeah.
And Ash has a lot to learn from Go in the fact of like being that tutor. Or at least that's what I'd hoped. I think he's fallen out of that role a little bit as the series has gone on, which is a bit of a shame because I was really looking forward to Ash being like the knowledgeable one and being able to mentor Go. But there's still benefits to having those two together. And it just feels like Chloe's got nothing to learn from them. There's nothing they can offer her. And there's nothing she can offer them.
Yeah.
So they just separate them off.
I can understand that. I tell you what, shall we flip the way we review these next 2 episodes around while we're on the subject of Chloe?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so let's jump into episode 9, which is Memories of Warming Kindness, which is another Chloe episode. And what I did like about this is actually we get to learn a little bit more about Chris, one of the lab assistants that we haven't really had any interaction with.
Not at all, because I thought her and the blonde guy were together.
I thought there was something going on. Yeah.
I don't know where I'd got the idea from, but maybe it was an assumption, maybe it's my heteronormative brain going, well, of course they're together. But apparently she lives alone and is quite happy to do so.
Yeah, she does. And so what I can't remember how it happens, but basically Chloe ends up having a sleepover at Chrissy's house.
So she's like, her mum's working late, her brother's staying at a sleepover, and she was going to hang out with Ash and Go, but they were out trying to catch ice Pokemon.
Oh, that's it.
I'm going to be on my own.
Yes.
It's just like, do you want to be on your own with me?
Yeah.
We can be alone together.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently.
And they have a girls' night, and it's great. And I love right, so I really like shows where a female protagonist gets to be influenced by female role models, especially in Pokemon. Like some of my favorite story arcs come from that. Like I've gushed about Bianca before and how all the female influences in her life are what pick her up from her own headspace and stuff like that. So I really like when you have these moments of, I'm not necessarily lost, but I'm not sure what to do with my life. I'm still trying to figure myself out. Okay, here is a prominent female person in my life who can act as a role model because she has become a professor or a professor's assistant, has gone down that research route, but has her own thoughts and feelings and is very feminine outside that. You know, we get introduced to this idea that she extracts essential oils from different Pokemon, and that's some of the research that she's done. I like that kind of thing. I like femininity. I like the fact that we can have this, what was initially like a shonen anime. I know it's not technically, but like it's a battle anime at its heart. Have that level of femininity and softness to it. I like it.
Yeah, I can get behind that, and it is nice to see, people being influenced by other people and their role models, and what you initially thought about them isn't what is true. And like Chris, for example, in this episode, it's great to see the insight on this other person that is just a background character for the most part. And what I do like about it is that the whole premise of this episode, with like they even set it up at the start with Chrissy's mum going, "Oh, have you got a special person in your life?" and like nagging it, and like the obvious thing they could have done with this episode is it's about her reuniting with the love of her life, this boy that she met. But actually, that isn't where it goes, and I like that. I like the fact that it isn't just, oh, you're a woman, and therefore to be happy you have to be with a man. Like I don't subscribe to that. Like you can be, whatever gender you're with, or whether or not you are alone, you can still be happy.
Yes,
and I do like that about this. That it doesn't because my thought watching this was, okay, they're going down the route of, okay, she's single, therefore a mum's nagging her because she's alone and she's sad, and the reason her house is just an absolute mess is because she's sad because she hasn't got a man. And I'm glad they don't go down that route. And it is, no, she is happy just doing what she loves, and the fact that she has all this Psyduck merch, she doesn't care what people think. Like, that is who she is, and that's what she likes.
And again, at least to my understanding, that's much more of a cultural sticking point over in Japan of like, you've reached a certain age now, why are you not married?
Really? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Or at least that's what I've picked up through shows and things like that, that does feel like more of an issue. I mean,
really?
Any female listeners in their 30s who are not married here, tell me, do your parents scream at you for not having someone in your life? It's very possible. I know mine have started nagging me about kids already. I'm like, that's not something I need. Anyway, we're not talking about me. We're talking about Chloe and Chris.
Let's talk about Chris. So so my next point is basically what we've kind of said is that Go and Ash in this episode are basically just there to drive the plot of the man. I don't even know what the man is called.
They meet a guy.
Yeah, they meet a guy who just happens, wouldn't you know it, to be the guy that Chris met many years ago, I think. And she's kind of hung up on this chance meeting that she wants.
Made her feel alive again.
Yes. And the whole premise is that Chloe assumes it's the bloke in the photo.
Uh-huh.
When actually, and I love this, when they finally meet up, it's not. She's obsessed with the Psyduck. Psyduck made her happy on that day.
Which, again, is not like a secret. This girl has Psyduck everything. It's amazing. I love her little Psyduck rubber duckies. I like her Psyduck chair softener. Like the fact that you go back to her house and it's all like hanging off the TV in multiple areas. I'm like, all right, I get it.
So the whole Psyduck thing for me, it was a surprise for me because I thought they were going down the route of the reason she's obsessed with Psyduck is because she's hung up on this man who happened to own a Psyduck. And that's just how she kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? How she, like, that's her connection to this man is the Psyduck, the Pokemon. And again, I'm glad that when you know, the joke is that when they do eventually meet up and she goes running in and she runs to the Psyduck, she hugs the Psyduck. Mm-hmm. That's the mon. That's the thing that she loves in her life. I loved it. I felt a lot better about this episode than the previous one.
Yeah,
I think.
See, I really like this. Again, I think it's sweet. I think it's a nice. Again, this is a straight slice of life anime episode.
Yeah.
And I really like it. And weirdly, did you ever used to watch Recess back in the day?
Yeah, I don't remember a lot about it, but yeah, I used to.
Okay, there is an episode where the female character, Spinelli, goes to Finster's house, which is the grouchy old dinner lady, and they end up having a wonderful time. And it's one of my favorite episodes, and it sticks out to me. And again, it's that level of like, you know, breaking down those assumptions of who people are because you see them in a certain environment. People can have people are multifaceted. There can be more to them than meets the eye. And just female characters getting to spend time together and be females. I like it because you don't see it enough.
No,
which is a really silly thing to say. It's got a lot better over the years. There is so much more entertainment for, there's so much more female-led entertainment nowadays. But it still makes me happy to see it.
Good. Should we move on to episode 8 then? Searching for Chivalry.
This is an Ash episode.
It is. It's a training episode, I think. But
it's a follow-up to the far-fetched episode where he lost to Gallade.
Yes. How long ago was that? Was that 2 weeks ago?
Oh, now you're asking questions.
It was early.
It was a little while ago.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying there is, like, in the older series, like, there probably might have only been 1 or 2 episodes between those two arcs. It feels like there's been a long time between this episode and when Farfetch'd lost that battle. But anyway, so
question on that, if I could just jump in on that. So do you think that's because of the way things are shown nowadays? So this series is a lot more episodic than the older versions. No, other way around. Serialized. It's much more serialized than the older episodic versions. Because it's not just expected to be shown on TV. At some point, everybody knows it's going to go to streaming. In fact, it goes up on the Pokemon channel almost immediately. So you can watch it in order, and you're kind of more expected to watch it in order nowadays than just catching random episodes on TV. So maybe they feel like they can get away with these longer through lines of stories.
Yeah, maybe, but at the same, my issue with it is that maybe I'm wrong here. I still see this as Ash's journey, and Journeys is about Ash's rise to taking on Leon, and yet this series feels like that's almost on the back burner, and part of me thinks, is that because, like, if they are forcing Ash to have more battles, then you've got an issue of, well, what's his win and loss ratio? Because if he wins them all, then suddenly it feels like he's too overpowered. If he loses more, then we're back to how, the issues with the earlier generations where he goes to a new area and he loses straight away. So maybe that's the way that they circumvent that of, okay, we can't show too many Ash battles because then it raises the question of, like, who's he better than, who's he worse than, and you can't repeat the same story that they had with B, for example. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's why it's more spread out, because they do need to almost pad out those sections, if that makes sense.
There is that. I mean, battles are also harder to animate and are more
True.
expensive to animate. True. So having these less intense episodes, I think, helps spread the budget a little bit further, especially towards like the end of this series where we are building up to the world's greatest coming together.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to look spectacular.
Yes, agreed. Right, should we jump into what this episode's about?
Yes.
Perfect. I honestly, I don't think we've ever spoken this much about this series. I've absolutely loved it. So this episode, we're off to Kalos to learn from Wickstrom,
who is a bit more of a crybaby than I ever imagined him to be. But
I thought he was quite like stoic, like very. I don't have emotions. I am, invulnerable to feelings, but
I am bravery incarnate. You will step to me.
But no, he's not. He's happy for Ash and Go multiple times in this. He's he cries with tears of joy, which is really nice. So this training is very unusual, even though it eventually gets them to where they need to go. So it's broken down into 3 rounds. So they go off to basically, it's advertised. What's it advertised as? Special training.
I'm not even sure. It's like, do they go to be knights?
Something.
Because the episode's called In Search of Chivalry, but I don't think that's why they go there. I've forgotten, like, the professor does go, hey, there's somebody here offering training. Do you want to go?
And they go along, and like, the training isn't what I expect. I probably should have guessed this from Pokemon. I expected it to be like, okay, battles. When it isn't, it's, a maze, running laps, and finding a Pokemon, I think is the final one.
Getting a key.
Yeah, that's the one. But what I do like about this is that they put a Pokemon spin on each of these challenges. So the first one is running 10 laps, but then you've got Probopass who's using its magnetism to repel the Pokemon trainers who are all wearing armor, which I really like that. It's
really smart.
Yeah, that they can bring in these Pokemon and go, okay, this is how it would work in the real world. Well, actually, this is the Pokemon world, and we've got these other elements that we can pull on or we can use, so let's use it. And I did quite like that it wasn't just running 10 laps.
Yeah, this is not a test of strength. This is a test of will, whether you will push through when things come hard.
Definitely, yes.
Great, cool.
Round 2 is where I think we start to see the shift in Ash and Farfetch'd relationship.
Yeah, and this is where you kind of get that this is what the episode is about.
Yes.
Because Wickstrom, I think Farfetch'd walks to a dead end, isn't listening to Ash, just walks up to a dead end and smashes through the wall instead of turning around and going elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And Wickstrom even says, it's like, that Pokemon's got a lot of power. It's really impressive, but it's not going to get anywhere with the way it is right now. No. And it's not till it falls in a hole.
That's it.
And then Ash pulls it out, and it's like, oh, okay, all right, thank you very much for that. Drops its leak, and without hesitation, Ash throws himself in the hole. Which we've seen him do before.
That's not unlike Ash. I think most humans wouldn't do it. Listen, those leeks, dime a dozen over in the local supermarket. I can buy as many leeks as you want, but Ash is the kind of character that will jump down the hole.
Yeah, he will throw himself off large buildings for. I think even at the start of X and Y, he jumps off Lumio's tower.
Yes.
Like the guy's insane.
Definitely. And so he throws himself down the hole, manages to get hold of the leak, and it seems that in some respect from the Farfetch'd
gains respect.
Yes, but it's only during round 3 that we see the culmination of this. And I loved round 3. The fact that they have to, it's one of those.
It's take this from my palm.
Yes.
Aha!
Yes.
You can't do it, grasshopper.
Yeah, I don't know how else to describe that. That's why I phrased it as like, how do you explain this? But that sums it up very nicely. Where it's the task sounds really easy, but it's not. What I did love about this is we got to see a sword fight. I love a sword fight. It's great. So
which is cool because they bring back the whole like we've been fighting with leeks, and it's like, why are you fighting with leeks? What's the go? Oh, you've got a sword now.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No. Fair enough.
I loved it.
I retract my previous skepticism.
Yeah. So Wickstrom fights with a sword, but as Wickstrom points out, it's a I don't know what it's made of.
A rubber prop sword.
Yeah. So it isn't going to hurt anyone, and he fights off against Ash and Go. Meanwhile, Farfetch'd and Go Cypher are taking on the Aegislash. And the culmination of this is Farfetch'd helping Ash using a new move, Detect, to block an attack. And ultimately, this culminates in Farfetch'd begins to listen to Ash.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Yeah, we knew this was going to happen at some point. There was going to be a point where these two have to figure out how to work together. I didn't expect this to be that episode, but I'm glad, thinking about the rounds and how they did it. I'm happy with how it turned out, that these are the set of circumstances and the hurdles they have to overcome for these two to begin working in partnership. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I felt it was maybe a little. It wasn't unearned, but I feel like more could have been done. And again, maybe that's because like we haven't had, the last one was 5 episodes ago where we figured out these two weren't getting along, and in that time we've not touched it at all.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of over it in another episode. It's like,
So if this had been the episode directly after that previous one, I'd agree with you there. But I think because there's been for us, there's been a couple of weeks since we watched that episode where Farfetch'd loses. It feels like there's been enough of a gap. Obviously, the question then is like, how long's passed in universe? But there's no real answer to that. If it's a day, then okay, that's not right. Like, you shouldn't overcome hurdles that quickly. But like, how long could they have strung on this Farfetch'd? Because
the thing is, it's they did overcome it in a day because they overcome it here. They start this episode the exact same place as they ended the last one. No progress seems to have been made in making Farfetch'd listen to Ash. So it does feel like, okay, it's just, it took me throwing myself down one hole for this thing to go, all right, fair enough. I'll listen to you now.
Yeah, for me, I know that the start of the episode with the leaks, which is how we left off at the last episode, but like in my head, I'm kind of thinking there's no way this is 24 hours later. But like I mentioned, there's no way to know in universe like how long has passed, unfortunately. But from our perspective of watching it, because it has been a couple of weeks, I can get on board with it. But like, how far can you stretch this out? I guess, would we really want another episode where Farfetch'd doesn't listen and Ash is still trying to figure it out and we don't get anywhere? I'm at the stage where I'm more excited about how Farfetch'd evolves rather than Farfetch'd listening to Ash.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm okay with this.
I think I agree with you there that I would be kind of like, oh, we still got this Farfetch'd. Let's listen.
Exactly. And like, we know how Farfetch'd evolves in game. Obviously, that's not something they can really do in so many critical hits.
How does it work again? You got to land a critical hit, but take so much damage.
Oh, I thought it was a number of critical hits in battle. Like if it had like 2 or 3 critical hits, so then you had to find a Pokemon with high HP and ideally have a move that increased critical hit ratio in items.
Yeah, you've got to do critical hits.
But obviously,
I'm pretty sure you've got to take a certain amount of damage as well.
Oh, it's been a long time since it's been like a couple of years since I've evolved the
Farfetch'd. Oh no! After landing 3 critical hits in a single battle.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. So I'm interested to see how that correlates to this, because obviously the critical hits aren't really a thing in journeys. Like, yeah, sometimes a move might knock out a trainer a Pokemon you don't expect it, but I don't know how that's going to work in this. But yeah, overall, the first episode that we discussed, it's nice, but I could have taken or leaving it. But these last two, I really did enjoy.
Yeah. I think I can concur with that.
Perfect. What do you fancy doing now?
I fancy pulling my phone up so we can play a game.
Woo! Perfect. While Conor is doing that, I'll just tell people what we're doing. In front of Conor, he has 3 Pokemon with 3 Pokedex entries each, and I have to spot the fake entry. And I get 3. That's going to be the main thing.
Because last week I got 3 out of 3, so nothing, no pressure, nothing to live up to.
Okay.
The first Pokemon is Ponyta. Dex entry number 1. The fire that makes up its mane can burn at heats of 1200 degrees. When Ponyta trusts a rider, the fire becomes cool to the touch. Number 2. Capable of jumping over the Eiffel Tower in a single giant leap. Its hooves are 10 times harder than diamonds. And number 3. Okay. These Pokemon live in herds out in the grasslands. Newborn foals lack fiery manes, which will develop about an hour after birth.
Oh, right. Okay. So. The first one, I know that the mane not burning the trainers is a thing for Rapidash. I don't know if it's a thing for Ponyta. That one I thought was the fake one. And then we got into the next two, like jumping over the Eiffel Tower. Okay, right. If the Eiffel Tower is a thing, then surely that's in, the Pokedex entries for the early games when they still referenced real life things. I think that might actually be legit. It's a very early Pokedex entry, but it's legit. The third one being born. Okay, right, I'm overthinking this. I'm going to go with the first one on the premise that it sounds the most real compared to the other two.
Damn it. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. It is indeed the first one.
Oh, okay. Right, fantastic.
So it's from the anime that it is Ponyta that does burn it, because he doesn't evolve into Rapidash until he's already riding it.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, yay!
So, the second Pokemon is Farfetch'd.
Oh.
And I will throw out there, unlike you, I will keep it all the same Pokemon. So none of these are Galarian forms.
Okay.
The first one. Farfetch'd are no... Sorry, I'll restart that. Farfetch'd are a known delicacy in a distant region. They are especially enjoyed when cooked with the leek they carry. Number 2. The sprig of green onions it holds is its weapon. It is used much like a metal sword. And number 3. It can't live without the stalk it holds. That's why it defends the stalk from attackers with its life.
Okay. Ooh. I'm going to go with 2, mainly because in the back of my mind, I swear I've heard the other 2 at some point in my life, but I might be wrong. I'm going with number 2 as the fake entry.
No, unfortunately not. Number 1 was the fake entry.
Oh, really? It does
At no point was it saying that people love to cook and eat Farfetch'd with its own leek.
But people do like to, let's be honest with you.
No doubt. It brings its own garnish. It's great.
Just rocks up to the pot. He's like, oh no, let's jump in. Brilliant.
Okay. And then we go on to the last one, which is Psyduck.
Oh, okay.
Number 1. It never remembers using its odd powers, so it always tilts its head in puzzlement. Number 2. When Psyduck's headaches become overwhelming, it falls unconscious and releases powerful waves of psychic energy. And number 3, as a result of headaches so fierce they cause it to cry, it sometimes uses psychokinesis without meaning to.
Oh, okay. They all feel like slight twists on true facts with that Pokemon. For that reason, I think I'm going to go with number 2.
Okay. It is number 2.
Oh, okay, right.
Was there any reasoning behind that?
What was it again? Number 2 was...
when Psyduck's headache becomes overwhelming, it falls unconscious and releases powerful waves of psychic energy.
Okay, so I know about the headache thing, but I've never heard about it falling over and like that causes it to release the psychic energy. So I think that was the little hint maybe in the back of my mind, but
so apparently what actually happens is it's complicated, as all Pokedex entries are. It either falls asleep or its sleeping brain wakes up
Oh.
Yeah, there's something to do with like the brainwaves we put out when we're asleep. That's what its psychic energy is.
Oh, okay, right. That makes sense.
So it's not falling unconscious, but it does fall asleep or wake up from falling asleep. I'm very confused.
Okay.
But there you go. You got 2 out of 3.
I'll take that.
That's a pretty good score.
Any other week, I'd be happy with that, but after last week, I'm not. I wanted those. I wanted those 3.
I wanted to prove that you weren't actually that good, and you just got lucky, and anybody can do it.
Well, next week you've got to try and get 3 again.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, perfect. Right. Shall we move on to comments and questions?
Yes, let's do it. We got a couple of from the Gmail account this time.
Yeah. See, we're going to flip people. People are going to think, if I email them, I'm definitely going to get that read out. And you're right for this week. For this week, you're right. No guarantee in the future. So the first question comes courtesy of Captain Mod. What is the most overrated / overused type in Pokemon? And the most underrated / underused type? Also, everyone join the Discord. It's great over there. Hey.
Love it.
Thank you.
Most overrated typing. I mean, the obvious answer here is Dragon, right?
Yeah. That is
I think it's overrated because, again, lots of people are like, it's just the strongest typing. And for the longest time, it was a really strong typing. It's fallen off quite a lot now that Fairy is so prominent within the metagame.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it, again, if you're talking about overrated, it definitely fits that bill because it wasn't that strong of a typing. It was more the fact that most legendaries and pseudo legendaries were dragon. That boosted that base stat total of the average dragon type.
Yep, agreed. What about
underrated? I'd love to say Bug, but I don't think Bug is underrated. I just think it's bad.
Agree. I think Bug are more tailored towards early game rather than late game. They have a lot of weaknesses, unfortunately. Again, there are some good Pokemon. I don't think they're underrated, but they definitely are underused. I think one of the most underused typings, and it's a dual type, and it's the only one of its only one is Grass and Ice, a Bomber Snow, which is really disappointing because I love that combo.
So many weaknesses.
Yeah. It's got like 6 weaknesses off the top of my head, which is really unfortunate because it really needs an ability, in my opinion, to kind of nullify some of those weaknesses. That one's definitely underused. In terms of
there you go, Grass. I think Grass is the most underrated because it's a utility typing. It's not the greatest for attack. It's not the greatest for defense, but it has access to so many utility moves.
I like that.
That I don't think it gets utilized anywhere near as much as it should. So yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Second question from Gmail, courtesy of, I want to say Tyler Walters, but I don't know if that's a typo on my end, so I do apologize. Do you think Pokemon will ever add multiple save files?
Well, technically they already have. You just need to have a different account on your Switch now. They really should. They really should. It is stupid that it's 2022 and that's not a thing.
Yep, agreed.
In fact, I can't figure out a reason why that's not a thing.
So the only reason I can think of is maybe they're concerned that if you have 2 save files on the same save file, it opens up the risks of you being able to do exploits or glitches or something like that.
Come on.
I know. And that's me reaching. That's me trying to play devil's advocate. Personally, I think we should have multiple save files at this point. And you can, you're right, you can do it on the Switch. You just use different profiles. I just think, my answer is no, but I can't give you a good enough reason why.
The thing is, it's an RPG as well.
Yeah.
So the idea of not being able to have multiple save files, like, oh, I want to save this just before I go into this gym, or I want to save up before I pick, like even just saving before you pick your starter Pokemon, so you can have 3 different run-throughs on the go.
So I know why now.
Go on.
Thinking about it. So I'm thinking my PlayStation games. A lot of the games that I play, you are able to, okay, right, you're about to fight this boss, you save the game. Okay, you play on a little bit longer, and then, okay, right, I'm going to save, but I'm going to save on a separate slot. So because I love beating that boss, at any point I can reload that game and fight that boss. If you apply that logic to Pokemon, what you could do is, okay, I'm going to save on this game before I take on the legendary Pokemon. And then I'm going to play on, and then I'm going to save again before I take on the Elite Four on a separate save file. What you can then do is at any point you can go back, load up the save file, beat the legendary, catch the legendary, trade it over, but it's not impacted your game because then you can load up the other save file, which is in front of the Elite Four. I think
who cares? You load up a profile and do like, so I get what you're saying. They don't want you to spam legendaries so that you have to like play through the entire game every single time if you want another one. But just who cares?
No, agreed. Like we're at that point where like people that are going to hack the game are going to hack the game regardless, and they already are, regardless of whether or not there is 1 or 20 save files.
And again, like, it's so much easier to clone the Pokemon than catch it every single time.
Agreed. Like, the people that are doing that are going to be the kind of people that go, okay, right, I want to catch this Pokemon, progress with the story, but I actually want to have an extra save there because then I can shiny hunt, or I can get the nature that I want, or the better EVs, or whatever it might be. The people I think the people that Game Freak are worried are going to hack the game using multiple save files, they're not going to be the ones using that to hack Pokemon because they already are doing it. You know when you get a hack Pokemon like traded over to you on Pokemon Home or the Wonder Trade mechanic, like you know the ones that are hacked, they're already doing it. Like, yeah, just give us multiple save files, but I don't think they will.
No.
Okay.
No, they'd have done it. They'd have done it by now.
Yes, agreed. And in my opinion, the Switch consoles, like it was the handheld consoles that definitely needed that because you want to play through, you want to complete it, and then you know what, I want to play it again, but I've got to either delete my save file and start from scratch or buy a new game. Like neither of those are good options.
Well, here's the thing, right? So I'm not necessarily entirely sure how this works, but when you buy online for your Switch, is that profile locked?
I don't know, to be honest.
Like, is it? I don't know if it's profile locked or Switch locked.
So you can't move your save file. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is, so for instance, if I create a new profile to play through Pokemon Sword again, can I go online with it?
Yeah.
I can. So it's on my Switch. It's not per profile.
Yeah, because I've done it where when I've done challenge videos, I've got my main account. And then I've got another account, and that still allows me to connect to the internet because, well, actually, I've got a Family Pass.
Yeah, see, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna double check this. If you wanna, I don't know if we have another question. If you want to start off, because I'm gonna double check this.
We do have another question. No rush. We have 5 minutes. So, question from YouTube, courtesy of Tony. Since you've brought up Tobias and his legendary Pokemon that we're only in the league to make Ash lose, so he's referring to something that we spoke about a couple of weeks back. Has there ever been a time in your lives where you felt completely and utterly robbed of an opportunity or something you worked hard to accomplish and it went to someone else? So, I can pick up on that one. I'm going to go with something in my YouTube life. Probably, who do I want to pick for this? I can pick the last 3 series that I've done. The Wedlock with you, the Cage Lock with Custom Forms with Tommy, and then the BDSP Cage Lock with British Eagle. I lost all 3 series despite the amount of time and effort that I put into it. And it does make you feel a little bit robbed, unfortunately. But you can only ever have one winner, so, spoils goes to them and GG's and all that.
Right. So mine is less to do with content creation. It's more to do with back when I was at work. I was working in a pub. I worked really, really hard at this pub. I was one of the highest sellers. Won all the upsale competitions and all that kind of stuff. Was constantly there working overtime. I worked in the kitchen. I worked in the front of bar. And the team leader position was coming up. I was a shoe-in. Basically, nobody else ran for it. because they knew it was my job for the taking.
Yep.
I was basically told it's your job for the taking. And they hired somebody in from outside who had never worked in a pub before.
Ooh, that is...
What made it worse was
God.
they made me work with them on their first day and
show
train
them everything. Yeah. It's
yeah,
absolutely...
Can you train the person who took your job from you?
Yeah, no, it's... I've had similar experiences in jobs in the past where you are doing the job they are advertising for. The difference with mine was basically they said, oh, you can apply for the job if you want, because I was leaving at that point because of the issues with the company. And they were like, oh, you can apply for this job. And I'm just sat there thinking, I'm already doing that job. I'm not applying for the job that I'm already doing. So anyway. Go on, what did you manage to find then?
Sounds like you can link your Nintendo account to multiple Nintendo Switch console. No, that's not what I'm asking. It's a different one to get the answer for by the looks of it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure is the answer.
Okay. Well, let's
Nintendo Switch Online is per user.
Okay.
So, but is that user? Is that console? Is that profile?
I think that would be user on the console. But
yeah,
then I don't think you can. Well. You can't move. You can't have a user on multiple Switch consoles, can you?
Nope.
No. Okay. Conor, what have you got coming up this week?
Not sure if anything, because I am away and Lewis is away this weekend. We're going away for a week. It's our yearly holiday.
Nice.
Where we get to go meet up and see a bunch of our uni friends. So we'll be away. I was supposed to have a bunch of stuff ready. I have not. So I'm working on a video right now. The likelihood of that getting released this week is not high.
Okay.
So,
fair enough.
Nothing.
Sometimes it is like that. By the way, I forgot to mention, if you've got a comment or question, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube or by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com. And that's the show for this week. If you got
you got nothing going on?
No, I haven't. No. I'm trying to wrap up before I have to go.
That's fair.
That's the show for this week. If you've gotten this far, you're just a top dollar, aren't you? Conor, where can we find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel at Captain Fidget or on Twitter at CatFidget.
Perfect. And I'm Ben, and you can find me as Professor Hoenn Gaming on YouTube and Professor Hoenn on Twitter and Twitch. As for the Goldenrod Podcast, you can find us on the usual platforms. Search for Goldenrod Podcast on YouTube or on your usual podcast app. Leave a like on YouTube or a 5-star review if you're listening as a podcast. We'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon Podcast.
See ya!